Okay, I hope you can see me okay here. So, I get emails all the time from people. I've never gotten a negative one, believe it or not. I've always gotten pretty positive stuff. And I got one today, and it, let me back up a little bit. I get a lot of emails that are interesting. I mean, all my emails are interesting, but every once in a while you'll get one, or I'll get one that really strikes home, and it makes you think about, the world we live in, and just how the general public looks at a farmer, or even looks at anybody that lives I can't say I live a simple life. I mean, my life is kind of complicated, I guess, but I live an agricultural life, and I wouldn't trade it for any job in the world except maybe the presidency of the United States, which I really wouldn't want that job either. But if I was the president of the United States and somebody threatened to throw a nuclear weapon at a territory that I had, I definitely would do nothing different than what the current president's doing. I wouldn't shrug it off as a retarded fat kid's threat. But anyway, with that being said, so I get this email today, and I'm going to read it to you, and it's probably going to be a little long-winded, and I'm going to give you my thoughts on it, because it just needs to be, thought about and discussed. So here we go. It says, "Hey Wes, hope the weather is allowing you to get some hay baled," which it's not, even though today I did bale some hay, but it wasn't for me. It was a friend of mine. He called up and said his baler broke and he couldn't get his hay baled. It's supposed to rain tomorrow, so it was alfalfa, and I went down and I baled it for him. No, I didn't charge him. Okay, so I'm actually riding this in a field waiting for the sun to come out and dry this hay so I can get it rolled up. Don't worry, we are still working on first cut too. I stumbled upon your channel about a year plus ago, after watching some of George Saunders' videos. I have to say, I really enjoy and learned a lot from your videos. I want to tell you a quick story why I started watching. I farm about 400 acres, started with 7 acres about 11 years ago, and I've slowly grew. I'm full-time on the farm. My dad and uncle farmed a little bit in the evenings after they got off of work. The periods and stuff are not, they're like the way I write. They just throw a period in here and there, which I think is kind of cool because, somebody else that writes like I do. Okay, I've always wanted to farm since I was a pup and worked for other farms and dairies growing up. So at 23, I went all in, bought a semi, hauled whatever I could to make a buck. A couple dairy farmers came to me and said I should get into custom chopping. So the numbers worked, and I bought a self-propelled chopper. So here's the story. I stopped at a gas station 2 years ago in the early morning to grab drinks and ice for the cooler on my way in to start chopping corn. And I run into a friend from high school. And I love that because this has happened to me. And it's funny because this is why it strikes a chord with me, because it's just the way it is. We exchange a normal gab, hi, how you been, married, kids, and then we get into the job questions. He works for a big company making 6 figures, driving a BMW. I congratulate him, and he turns, and in turn, he asks me what I'm doing. Hell, I've never been ashamed to get dirty or shitty, so I tell him farming. His response, I'm sorry. I don't know if it was because I was half asleep or what, but I was dumbfounded. I knew he meant it because the look on his face was priceless. I know he was thinking it and didn't mean to say it, so it was genuine. Didn't think much of it till later in the day, and the more I thought about it, the more it really started to bug me. It still bugs me to this day. Why would he be sorry for me? The only thing I can come up with is this public perception of the farming, killing them with GMOs, beating our livestock, reaping big checks from the government. So I stewed for a while on it, trying to figure out how to come up with a way to let the public know what I actually do every day, and the amount of work we all put into this as farmers to feed the world. Then it came to me. I'll put videos up on YouTube every day of what I actually do. So I went to YouTube to see if there was anything like that. That is when I came across your channel, my channel. My wife asked me why I watch videos about farming when I do it every day. I am guilty of this also. Very guilty of this. I guess it's to see other farmers going through the same things I do. Weather, markets, public trying to run you off the road, which I do agree with you. In the last 3 years, they have become more and more impatient. Tonight, on my way home with that tractor and baler that I was working with today, I had a septic truck passing me on a blind corner, and wouldn't you know it, a small car come around. And I don't normally jam on the brakes, I let them duke it out. But today, I dove for the ditch, jammed on my brakes, and probably saved a life. That's just what happened. Okay, I've been run off the road 3 times lately. One so bad I thought I was going to flip the tractor because a lady swerved at me. My dad had that today too. He had to lift the forks up on the 7410 because this woman was gawking at her phone driving up the road and was slowly coasting into, well, he was up against the ditch and he was completely stopped. He just raised up the loader so that if she did hit him, it would hit the front of the tractor and not the spikes through the window. So that's the kind of shit we deal with all day. I know that video the other day I posted with me on the road complaining about people. You know, when the road was narrow, they'd move over, but when it got wider, they don't move over at all, and then they expect me to go up in the grass. But that's why, because people are fucking stupid. The lady swerved to me. I had to unhook the sprayer I was pulling, call for another tractor, pull it back, and then pull me out of the ditch. This was getting lengthy, so I'm going to wrap it up. I know you're busy. If you ever get into central Ohio, I'm just east of Columbus, about 5 miles, blah, blah. I had to cut him off. I'd like to buy dinner or lunch or whatever. And if you ever find a piece of equipment on hire that's interesting, I'd go look at it and give you a second opinion. And it'd save you some traveling, of course. It's starting to sprinkle, so I might start posting videos one of these days if I ever get my act together. So anyway, with that being said, you know, I had the very same experience. I mean, I live here in the same town that I've always lived in, and there were some people that moved away. I mean, a lot of people moved away from here. I always figured that, you know, my area is a transient area. People just come, live here for a few years, and then move on. And kids that I went to high school with, not all of them, but probably about 80% of them have moved on to bigger and better things in their lives. But there's one, and he does watch my videos from time to time now, but he didn't. We kind of reconnected on Facebook. He asked if I was still farming, and I says, yeah. He says, well, you know, I guess we all have to do something. And I'm like, well, yeah, of course we all have to do something. What do you mean? Because I'm not shy when it comes to those types of questions or answers or whatever. He says, well, you know, we always, you know, I guess it just figures your parents were farmers, and you know, it's just the natural thing to do that you follow in your parents' footsteps and become a farmer. And you know, it's okay because we all have to do something. Well, you're right, we all do have to do something. But I can tell you something. I'm not my father, I'm not my mother, I'm not my grandmother, I'm not anybody else that's ever farmed on this property. I am me. This business, the hay business, is my own. It evolved from a dairy to dairy and grain back in the 70s, 60s, and 70s. I was born in 1972. The early 80s, my grandfather died in 81. Then we scaled back to grain and concentrated on dairy cows, and we were milking 80 cows when I graduated high school. And I knew that I wasn't going to milk cows, but I certainly didn't want to do, nothing on the farm. So I went into, kind of started the grain business back up again and started into that. And then in 1998, and I graduated high school in 91, but in 1998 I decided that grain was really, okay, but I needed to do more. So at that time there was a lot of horse people in the area and beef cows and other dairies, and I decided, and of course the mulch business, I decided to buy a big baler. and I would do all this stuff, and that's how I really, built this. I'm not bragging or anything, but, I produce a lot of hay. Do I miss doing grain and stuff? Yeah, I certainly do. But I certainly wouldn't trade my life for any one of my classmates' lives. Not one of them. Not one of them. I wouldn't want to be putting a suit and tie on and going to an office. I'm not cut out for that work to begin with. I wouldn't want to be the guy that, so you make $100,000 a year. Big deal. Make $100,000 in 2 months. I mean, it's just a cold hard fact of it. Anybody that's farming out here, anywhere, knows that money flows through our fingertips like air goes in and out of our lungs. And, it's a tough deal to carve a living out of agriculture. But you know what? I own my own hours. If I want to stay in bed tomorrow, today I couldn't, I had to take a load of hay, but if I want to stay in bed tomorrow morning until 7, I can. I can. If I want to stay up tonight until 10 o'clock so that I don't have to get up until 7 o'clock, I can do that. I can, choose to mow hay tomorrow. I can choose to weld the rest of this thing up tomorrow, and there's nobody telling me what I do and don't have to do. Nobody owns my time. And that's the funny thing about people that work for someone else, even in farming. You don't own your time. I own your time. If you're working for me, I own your time. You come in at, say, 7. I'm pretty lenient. We work later. I don't show up here until 9 o'clock in the morning. Believe it or not, I don't show up until 9 o'clock in the morning. Unless there's something broken like this thing, then I'll be here earlier. And yeah, I got the reflexes of a cat. That was a drum. But if you're going to work for me, you show up when I tell you to show up. And from that point forward, until you go home, your time is mine because I've bought it. I bought your time. So if you're here for 9 hours, you're here for 10 hours, whatever it is, I own that block of time. Doesn't matter if you're walking into an office at Merrill Lynch. Doesn't matter if you're walking into a McDonald's. It doesn't matter if you're walking anywhere that you have a job, a place of employment. When you walk through those doors and you go ka-chunk, or you're on a salary, the time that you're there, that time is not yours. It's somebody else's. For me, I own every second of my time. I get up and I do my job. So when someone says, I'm sorry, in a negative way, like, oh, I'm sorry you scratch a living from the dirt. I'm sorry that you put moldy hay together and take it to a mushroom farm so that it can be taken into restaurants in New York City and sold for, a lot of money. I'm sorry. That's bullshit. Don't be sorry for me. Feel sorry for yourself. I wouldn't trade this life for anything. And if I fail, guess whose fault it is? It's not my boss's fault because I'm the boss. I own my own time. And this guy that sent me this, I don't know him from Adam. I don't. I think his name is Corey. As a matter of fact, I should have looked. But he owns his time. So, he said he was dumbfounded, and that's probably the best word because you know what? You can't buy what I have. You can't. I guess you can. If you want to leave your fancy pants job and your BMW or whatever and trade it in for a John Deere tractor or whatever, that's your right, and you can do that. But it's not easy. It isn't easy. But who said life is easy? Honestly, that guy that's driving that BMW with the $500,000 house or whatever that amount of money house and the kids and the $100,000 or $150,000, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year job, he'll never understand. He'll never understand. I wouldn't trade a second of my time for that money that they're making. Yeah. So when they say they're sorry, they're really sorry for themselves, not sorry for us. We don't need to be felt sorry for. I really, there's stresses in agriculture, and anybody that's in farming definitely knows there's stresses in agriculture. But it's nothing to feel sorry about. There's just no reason to feel sorry because I scratch a living out of the dirt. I don't know. you can't be stupid and do this business either. It's just not happening. All the dumb farmers have been out of business a long time ago. You have to be business savvy. You just have to be business savvy, and you have to have an ambition and drive to do the job that needs to be done. Just like this hay wagon here that's upside down. In the first, the video I posted last night, it was kind of shocking. And one guy summed it up. You saw that. That's a 4230, and no, that wasn't a tractor my grandfather bought for my grandmother. I bought that a few years ago, but that tractor is a 100 horsepower tractor. It couldn't pull this wagon that's upside down into this building without that skid steer pushing on it. So and think about it, it's no heavier. It's actually safer to be pulling that upside down than it would be with the wheels on. And then throw a bunch of hay on it. Big tractor, big jobs. Big tractor, little jobs. Little tractor, I have no desire to even own one. More fuel. I'm still here. I'm alive. I'm okay. So I guess this is long-winded, and I'm probably going to have to edit it out, but, life is life. Don't let anybody insult you with an "I'm sorry" because you're doing what you love or what you like to do or what you want to do in life, and your time is your time. Now, a custom operator, of course, you're working for somebody, so the faster you get that job done, the more money you're going to make, and but still, it's still on your time. But anyways, thanks for watching. Please comment, rate, and subscribe for more. If you don't like what I just said, then that's just too fucking bad. If you don't like what I'm about, unsubscribe now. I really don't care. If you're gonna belittle and trash me, you will be blocked. I've had about enough of that now. So yeah, thanks again. Thumbs up.